And welcome to it. Thanks for being with us here On Deck. And today we're going to go back in time a little bit. We're going back to October the 7th, 1983. The Orioles were really good, and they were taking on the Chicago White Sox in the ALCS. We'll get into the game in a moment, but just to take you back a bit, Ronald Reagan was the president of the United States. Gas cost $1.16. And the number one movie at the box office in 1983 was a Star Wars movie, not surprisingly, but Return of the Jedi. Now, the Orioles had the White Sox in the American League Championship Series to try and win the pennant and to get back to the World Series for the first time since 1979 and eventually take on the Philadelphia Phillies. And the Orioles, in Game 3 of this series at the old Comiskey Park, routed the Chi Sox, led by Eddie Murray, the eventual Hall of Famer, who got the Orioles off to a great start in this one. First inning of this game, Eddie batting left-handed, and he steps in the batter's box. Probably there wasn't a more menacing sight for American League pitchers in the late 70s and 80s than Eddie Murray stepping into the batter's box, whether it was right-handed or left-handed. And look where he hits this thing. Eddie Murray all over this baseball. The Orioles go on to win 11-1 over the White Sox, and the Orioles get great pitching to back up the hitting this day. Mike Flanagan, who got the start, he went 5 innings, allowed just a 1 run. Sammy Stewart closed the door, earning the save. 4 innings for Sammy Stewart, and he allows just 1 hit, no walks, and no earned runs for the former Oriole. Also in this game, the Orioles get a bunch of RBIs, including from Brother Lowe, John Lowenstein, and Gary Renicky, plus Rich Dower, Al Bumry. Everyone contributed on their way to 11-1 rout of the Chicago White Sox, pushing the Orioles to the brink of winning the pennant. And we're going to show this game coming up across all the Orioles digital channels. A really fun game. You'll see all the contributions beyond Eddie Murray as the Orioles were getting closer to closing the door on yet another American League championship before they meet the Philadelphia Phillies in the World Series. And on Orioles Magic, the podcast, I had a chance, along with Jeff Arnold, to catch up with the Hall of Famer Eddie Murray to talk about this ALCS.
I tell you, the other thing was that home run. To jump out, 3-0 in that game was really, really awesome. Now, there's 2 other things that really, really jump off big during the playoff. After that game, when we won in Chicago, we go to leave. We all on the buses. And for some reason, all 3 buses or 4 buses had the same thought. We stopped over there at the White Sox parking lot, and we pulled down all the windows. We opened up the doors, and that song they used to sing, na, 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 hey, good. But we sung that, and they turned around, and they applauded us, the fans did, and then they just, start yelling like, good luck, and we actually won it. But, they're just crazy little things, about the game and, that was really kind of big to me. I mean, I thought that was awesome of the White Sox fan to do that.
And you can hear our entire interview with Eddie on Orioles Magic, the podcast. It comes out tomorrow, and you can download it at Orioles.com/podcast or wherever your podcasts are downloaded. And Eddie was very fond, obviously, looking back at that World Championship Club of 1983, and he was reminiscing with us.
We really did have a good ball club, and like I said, that 83 ball club goes back to 82, to lose on the last day of the season. And you hear Earl's report to Joe Altobelli basically was, don't screw it up. In other words, just put that lineup out there. They're ready to play. And it makes you stop and think, well, why don't you come back for the ride? Well, we ended up getting Joe, and what a first year it was for him.
That's the great Eddie Murray, certainly a big part of Baltimore baseball royalty with his 500-plus home runs and 3,000-plus base hits. By the way, on the podcast, we get into coming back to Baltimore in 1996, a part of that trade. So Eddie not only helps the Orioles get in that pennant race in 1996 and take the Orioles to the ALCS that year, but also hitting his 500th home run on the same day Cal Ripken, the anniversary of Cal Ripken eclipsing Lou Gehrig as the all-time leader in consecutive games played in baseball history. The anniversary of 21-31, 1 year after Cal did it, Eddie hits number 500, and a remarkable story that will forever live in baseball lore. And we talk about switch hitting with Eddie Murray, how pitching has changed over the years. So a really fun conversation on Orioles Magic, the podcast, which again will be dropped tomorrow, and you can get it wherever you download your podcasts. A few weeks ago on the podcast, we talked about that 83 ball club with Scotty McGregor, who pitched the winning and clinching game in that 1983 Fall Classic.
Well, yeah. First and foremost, all of a sudden we're deja vu of 79. We're up 3-1, and you could have heard a pin drop after we won that third game and said, "Okay, boys." And it was, it was nice to have a 3-run, 3-1 lead going out there. But there was 66,000 people there, and we knew that it was the old Big Red Machine when you're pitching against all the old, Pete Rose and Perez and Morgan. And, it was pretty impressive. But Eddie showed up early, which really made that game a little bit easier. Him and Dempsey, and they gave me 5 runs early, and they just made it just throw the ball over the plate. And I look at the stats because I'm watching the thing that's on the game, and if I'd have known before the game that I was 14-1 on the road and 7-0 on AstroTurf, I would have probably kept my hat. I mean, the first time I saw that, I go, "Holy cow, this was a shoe-in," But it was just an amazing thing to have the teammates that we had there, and to even get to 2 World Series and have a chance to redeem yourself. It was pretty special to be able to have that chance to do it.
And that's the Orioles Hall of Famer, the Southpaw, Scott McGregor. Right now, we want to say thank you, MedStar Health nurses, during Nurses Week and every week. Every single MedStar Health nurse makes a difference for all of us and our communities now more than ever. Thank you. A few reminders here. One, we want to congratulate Dwight Smith Jr. on his participation in MLB The Show, the Players League. Now, Dwight's team was eliminated in the playoffs, but he had a spectacular season, and he was named Best Manager from MLB. So congratulations to Orioles outfielder Dwight Smith Jr., who did really well in the MLB The Show Players League, entertaining many of us during these times as we are hungry and missing baseball. And tomorrow on Orioles Instagram, Richie Martin is doing a takeover. And tomorrow, Richie will be doing it to celebrate the centennial of the Negro Leagues in Maryland. So check that out tomorrow. Richie Martin, the Orioles infielder, on Orioles Instagram for a very important anniversary date. And before we say goodbye on this Thursday, coming up for our broadcast on Sunday at noon, we'll have On Deck, and then the game will be at 1. One of my all-time favorite Orioles games as a fan. I remember where I was when Chris Hoiles hit a walk-off grand slam. We'll talk to the Orioles Hall of Famer and the longtime backstop of the team, Chris Hoiles, not only about that game, but about his very interesting baseball life. But just picture this moment. Yes, it was not a postseason game, but the Orioles, a good club when this game was played, an important game certainly, and it's bases loaded, down by 3, 3-2, bottom of the 9th, 2 outs. It's the setup you have in your backyard when you're dreaming and fantasizing about being a big leader. And that's exactly the spot Chris Hoiles found himself in, and he took Seattle Mariner pitcher deep. We will relive that entire game and Hoiles' memories of that coming up. Chris Hoiles, look back at his career, not only one of the all-time best catchers in team history, but also someone who's involved in a lot of really important moments and games, both regular season and postseason, and that one will live forever. So that's coming up on Sunday. But right now, we're taking all the way back to the 80s, the early 80s. We're taking it back to October of 1983. Orioles and White Sox at the old Comiskey Park. Settle back and enjoy. Thanks for being with us, everybody, on Deck,